focus on Wednesday will be about this new recruiting class, the new additions to our program. Saying that, obviously we've made a change on the defensive side of football, and in this day and age, beating the information to the punches is part of the way it works. I was out recruiting on the road, and obviously the news broke. So, here we are Monday after things came out on Thursday, but it was a change that I didn't take lightly. Coach Garza and I had known each other, or have known each other, for a long time, and I've worked with him now on 3 occasions, and I do thank him and appreciate the work that he was able to do here in his time at Montana State. I think our defensive package continued to grow. Our coaches underneath him continued to grow, and at the same time, we need to play a level of defense that it looks a little bit different next fall, and not renewing Coach Garza. That's, like I said, that was a very hard decision for me to make, and it also was a relatively easy decision to elevate both Bobby and Shawn into their new roles. And a lot of times there's appointments made, there's titles given. But I want to start by saying, in Bobby being the defensive coordinator and Shawn being the co-defensive coordinator, this is going to be a collective approach. This isn't titles being handed out. It's my expectation that those two who have been in our program for 3 years together will work together. They'll work together not only during the off season, but the course of each game week, and then they'll work together on Saturdays. Ultimately, one guy will call the defensive plays on a Saturday, and that will be Bobby. But it's going to be a collective effort between the two of them, and I have a lot of confidence in their ability to work together. Having seen them grow the last 3 years in this system, there's a confidence I have in their ability to work together first and foremost, but their understanding of what we're aiming to do, their understanding of our players' belief in them is truly apparent. So, like I said, making this move to not renew Coach Garza was a difficult one, but putting the new leadership of Bobby Daly and Shawn Howe in place, that part was easy for me. I'm also going to call on Nick John Baptiste and Brian Shepard to continue to grow in their roles to support both those guys. Brian and Nick have both been with us now 2 years, and I've seen tremendous growth out of them as well. And then obviously we'll be in the midst of hiring a new assistant coach. And the less movement we can have within our staff, the better. Brian is coaching our corners right now, Bobby coaching our linebackers. So in theory, that would mean we were hiring a new safety nickels coach, but we want to get the best guy that will fit that defensive room, fit with our players, and then fit our recruiting model as well. So with that, relative to the coaching change, that's my statement. I know there's some questions as far as maybe injuries out of the last game go. I know Tommy left that game, unfortunately, in the fourth quarter. But Tommy is going to be all right. His injury would have kept him out of any season we would have had left, but it was non-surgical, and I do trust that when we get back at it here in January, in about a month, he'll be well on his way. As far as his recovery go, Julius was unavailable that day. He was dressed, and we were hopeful. Same thing goes there. His health, once we get to January, will be fine. But on that day, unfortunately, it didn't work out. I know Shawn's no longer with us, but Shawn came into that game with an existing injury that he was able to play through to some degree, but not quite what we had I'm kind of come accustomed to seeing and his ability to run. So those would probably be the three primary injuries that we dealt with on that particular day. And, last but not least, with the transfer portal piece, I would say that's a piece of the pie that we're going to continue to deal with. None of the guys that have gone in have made a decision. And at the same time, understand that those are opportunities that are available to guys that have established themselves, and whether it's opportunities to move up, financial opportunities, that's the nature of college football right now. So what we got to do is give them, the best experience we can while they're here, support them the best we can. And, if guys do choose to move on, we ultimately have to at the same time and be able to continue to move this program forward with the guys that we add. So, we'll talk more about the guys we're adding on Wednesday, but this, I suppose, is a status update of where we stand here today on Monday.
Walter, do you want to start?
Sure, thanks. Hi, Coach. When it comes to Bobby Daly, he had the one game in the playoffs a couple of years ago where he called plays. Did that give you a sort of confidence? Because it seems to me like an acquired skill, calling plays within the scope of the heat of battle.
Yeah, being able to watch him in action, that Weber State playoff game, that certainly made an impression upon me. And our guys, whether it's spring game, I mean, there's a lot of times to make an impression upon me, but that certainly was heat of the moment. That was outside of his job description at that current moment. So, and I think what I've seen, when I first got the job, I had a chance to sit down with Bobby, and interview him in a sense for the coordinator position. I know it was a spot that he was aspiring to at that time, albeit with a different defense. And I had a conversation with both him and Shawn when Freddie left after the 21 season, and both of their progress within this defense, their ability to go beyond the scope of their position. I think I have seen considerable growth, and a bunch of that credit goes to their time with Willie Mack Garza. Willie Mack is an extremely experienced coach. As far as the defensive back technician, I put him up there with anybody. So I think they've been able to grow, and I think some of that credit goes to Willie Mack. And so there are a lot of things that go into my confidence in putting Bobby into this new position, and Shawn for that matter. But that game day, along with a lot of things, make me feel really good about this.
It sounds like the base scheme is going to stay largely the same. Is that right?
Yeah. I think for our players, I think if we can stay within this scheme, that I do think at times we played a really good defense. That's what we want to be able to do now. How that plays out on a given Saturday. I think that can take on the personality of a new play caller. It can take on the personality of this new defensive staff. And ultimately what it needs to do is take on the personality of our players and what they do the very best. And fortunately for us, I think we will return a very talented, experienced defensive depth chart. And, these guys now are tasked, Bobby, Shawn, being at the top of the list to get, to go through the off season and say, okay, come next fall, this is what this defense, while having this general structure, needs to look like as we go out there and ask those guys to play as fast and physical as possible.
And Bobby coached, first team all-league guys ever since he first got his first position coaching job. He's had at least one of the first team all-league linebackers. Same thing with Coach Howe. How does that translate, though, when you're great at developing players into then becoming sort of the heads of the defensive unit?
Well, I'll say this. I think there's certainly confidence amongst our players in both of them as teachers. As guys that are demanding and guys that are going to get the best out of their guys. You've seen constant development out of both of those position groups that they've coached. And I think the next step is, okay, beyond coaching those guys up and putting those guys in the best positions within what's being called. Now you're taking what you perceive as those best positions, and you're the one making those decisions. And not that they didn't have a say in it before, but I think they have a different collective say, obviously, moving forward. And it's I do think there's a lot of confidence, starting with our players in both of their abilities to coach them up, and then let's sort through the best ways to put all our guys, our best guys, however you want to look at it, in the best positions come Saturdays. And we need a passionate group that is going out there and doing everything they can, throughout the year. And then that's when we get back to things in about a month, I'm excited to see this new group take hold of that leadership side of things, paint a picture of what we're going to do, albeit not all that different, but it's going to have a new stamp on it for sure.
Last one for me, when it comes to just the co-defensive coordinator, I'm sure that's collaborative game planning and stuff like that. What else does it look like, though? And I'm assuming Bobby's gonna be the primary play caller. How to just take us through those details?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think sometimes it is just a title. There's a lot of titles in college football. There's a lot of titles in coaching in general, but that was my charge. I want this in our preparation, and that's not just game weeks and the Saturdays. It's long discussions, in the off season about defensive play, about evaluating this past season, these past couple seasons. What have we done really well? What have we, where have we come up short? And not always agreeing on everything. I think that's that when you have a couple, real experienced guys in that room, there should be some fair discussion. And, I think both of them driving one another and ultimately coming to resolution is what will be the end result. And then that game plan then plays out and within a game, one guy's calling each particular play, but the discussions that then go on between series and at halftime, are probably an extension of those discussions in the off season. What are we doing well? How do we see the best way to make adjustments and those type of things. So, if you want to call it right-hand man or whatever, I really see those guys working together very well. And I wouldn't put this same responsibility / title on a brand new guy. I don't think that would make sense, but we have, two guys that have, worked together in their roles the last 3 years. And they've been in those discussions, but, we've had more of we've had two different coordinators and two different styles in Freddie and Willie Mack. But the depth of those discussions, that's what I challenge those two. Let's be able to sort out exactly what, we needed. And again, that doesn't need to be a scenario where they always agree, but let's work through it so that we put our players in the best position possible. So, to the best answer your question, that was a long answer, but I do think it's it's something that takes on this collaborative form that's already started, honestly, but we'll certainly pick up speed when we get back here in January.
Victor, let's go to you.
Yeah. Hey, Brent, just wanted to get your thoughts on just the last few weeks after the season ended, now that you've had a few weeks to digest it all, seeing the rest of the FCS playoffs play out, and just how your team, of course, as you mentioned, with the transfer portal has changed a bit, but how have these last few weeks gone? How have you kind of reflected on the end of the season?
Well, I think it'll be ongoing reflection. For me, you go out recruiting. You understand that pretty dang quickly. You better move on. You better move forward. You better be able to go into a young man's home, and be able to continue to paint the picture of what this is looking like moving forward. While at the same time, understand, hey, we got to really thoroughly evaluate kind of where we're at, what we have returning, how are we gonna move on as far as not coming up short. And it's not that simple, because you start back at square one. No matter how the season ends, you're gonna have a new team in 24, and I think just to sweep it on the rug as far as saying it's 24 is not what we want to do. We need to be able to, like I said, thoroughly evaluate this past season, and that's done over time. That's evaluating our scheme, our personnel, even the progression of our season and where we felt like we did things really well and where we came up short. I think just even evaluating that, I think it's a process. That particular Saturday, why that didn't work out for us, I think there's just a multitude of plays in that game. I thought we played really hard that day, so it wasn't a question of our guys not going after it. And obviously, as competitive of a game that we had with that opponent and how they went on and won a game and lost a very competitive game, you're right in the thick of it, but that doesn't do you. There's no solace in that. So, we're not that far off, but we were far enough off that it didn't happen for us this year. And that's something that we're after on a daily basis to sort out, to work forward, but not discount, the things we can learn from this fall.
Just the last one for me, at least for this little segment, but you talked about losing the guys to transfer portal. Obviously, there are a lot of guys so far have not entered on the team, and it seems like it wasn't a mass exodus or anything like that so far. I mean, can you just talk about the process of trying to recruit your own guys after a season ends, and that the dilemma that kind of new development that you've had to have in your coaching career of trying to make sure guys are bought in, and maybe speaking to the culture of the team to be able to keep so many guys over the last couple of years. Yeah.
Well, I know this. You can't all of a sudden the Monday after your game finished try to be figuring it out. I know that it's an ongoing process. I think I said before, you want to be able to treat your guys as well as you can. You want to give them every opportunity to succeed within your program, and that's an everyday thought. That's an everyday thought, and recruiting and retention are very much always on your mind, and retaining your guys is about the experience that they have, and at the same time understanding there might be some scenarios, some things offered to some guys that you can't contend with, and an opportunity that makes complete and total sense to a young man might be presented to them, and at the same time you hope that you have a bunch of guys that leaving your place isn't even a thought. So we got a little bit of both. We got more of those guys that in their mind at this point in time wouldn't even think of leaving. So you want your guys to be as informed as they can if they are choosing to leave, and make very sound decisions, and understand that there's some things as a football program, a football staff that are just flat out of your control. And so getting to this point, you'd like to say you wouldn't have lost a single guy, but that's not the case. We'll get to Wednesday. We'll talk about our additions and how I suppose some of that comes about because of guys that have moved on. You know, when guys move on, it creates new opportunities, and that's how you got to look at it. But you know, the retention piece, that has to be about how you operate every day of the year, and not just all of a sudden on a Monday after your season comes to an end.
Braden, what do you have?
Hey, so I guess first of all, I know you kind of mentioned it earlier, but just I guess specifically about the NDSU game, anything on film that kind of stood out or any observations you have about specifically that game, you know, a couple weeks removed now?
Well, I do think this, not getting into specific plays, but we had opportunities in that game to open up the gap as far as the score goes, and whether it was special teams, whether it was offense or defense, we just didn't do that. And anytime, you know, when you're in the playoffs and you're in these tightly contested games, you best make the most of those opportunities. And you know, we didn't do that, whether that was through the first quarter, whether that was kind of in that ebb and flow at the end of the third, beginning of the fourth, or then ultimately, you know, our ability to, you know, maintain the 7-point lead. You know, you get in overtime, anything can happen. And it obviously has proven that through the playoffs, not just in our game. So I do think we did some things really well on that particular Saturday, and it didn't work out for us. And, you know, it wasn't for a lack of our guys going after it in their preparation, how they played that day. And that's why, you know, it was such an abrupt ending, because I do think even 2 weeks later, you kind of just, you know, you kind of wonder why that happened. But there was opportunities. There was opportunities in that game to open it up, and you know, we just we didn't do it that day, and you know, we gotta, you know, that's one of the things we got to figure out how to, you know, in games like that. I know going back to the South Dakota State, you could look at some of the same things, opportunities to open up a lead and secure a victory that we didn't do. So, you know, off season of evaluating the hows and the whys, and you know, incorporating the, you know, the subtle changes that we need to, so the next go around we can figure that out.
I guess kind of along with that, you mentioned the SDSU game as well, but you know, 3 of the 4 teams you guys lost to ended up in the semifinals this year. Does that affect your outlook at all on the season? Or I guess what do you kind of make of that?
Well, I think you make of it that we were close. I mean, and we were right there, but there's no, we're not after that. We're not after being in the ballpark. We want to be the last team standing. And you know, the 23 team wasn't. You know, feel bad for our seniors. Feel bad for those guys that poured so much into it. And it didn't happen for them, you know. And I do think as you depart from that team that Monday following the game, I feel strongly in saying that they've continued to make this place a better football program. Their efforts in their time here and has been significant. Their impact has been significant, and now it's up to the next group to carry that forward. And you know, we got to learn from this past season, and you know, continue to do everything we can to be the last team standing. And you know, we are not in 23, and we can't change that. We can change what we do moving forward.
And then last one for me, I guess, just looking at the last 2 seasons, you know, going from 22 to 23, what would you say were the strides this 23 team made, I guess, to improve upon what you guys did in 22?
Well, I think we improved on lines of scrimmage both ways. I think that was the case, and it should have been the case. You know, we returned a whole grouping of guys, and we will continue to do that. So continuing to just improve at the point of contact on both sides of the ball, I think is important. You know, I think at times you can look at our skill positions, and we made some really good strides. I don't, you know, that's not our running back position, for instance, was what it was in 2022 and became quite a bit more in 23. Our secondary, while faced with a lot of new faces, I think was, you know, continued to be improved. I look at our coverage teams, you know, I think you lead the nation in net punt and you lead the nation in touchbacks. I think we were good there. Obviously entirely in the kicking game, we did not improve. We didn't get as many opportunities on the return side. And, you know, ultimately our place kicking wasn't what it was. But, you know, I think as far as, you know, some of those areas, we definitely took some strides, and you know, I think with the amount of guys we return as we head into 24, there's no reason we can't continue on that same track.